Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Good morning. It is great to see everybody. Happy Monday. Was it a great weekend out there? It was a great weekend here, fraught with busyness and craziness. But I was following some of you on Facebook a little bit this weekend and seeing what everybody's getting up to with the summer shenanigans starting out, right? Had a good day yesterday. It's been very busy because, as you probably know, the second issue of Magpie Times is wrapped up. I'm still getting, I just sent my third piece in this morning. I have been very late getting my pieces into my own magazine. It's been a it's been a tough push lately, time wise, but I got everything in, and now we're projecting forward to the next issue, which will function as the fall issue. And the theme of the issue is the country fair, which really covers so many things. It's not really just like amusement parks, rides, that kind of thing, but more also fiber stuff, animals, um, harvest, Halloween, right? All of those many things would fit perfectly into the next issue. So if you're working on a feature article, or you've got something for the gallery, or you think you have a one-page thing or a half-page thing, you can send it in any time. Please, when you send something in to either gallery night for this show or Magpie Times, send to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com and try to remember to write the subject in the line. So if it's for a gallery night, right, which will be in about a month because we did one this past Friday and it was great. Everybody sent in such beautiful work. It's such a pleasure to go through it and talk about it. It's so inspiring. But if you're sending something in for gallery night, make sure you write gallery night in the title. And if you're sending something in for Magpie Times, make sure Magpie is in the title there somewhere. So when I pick it up among the other emails, because there's a lot, that I have it in the right place and I don't miss your stuff. Everybody's sending the most beautiful stuff. I'm so pleased. Let me say a quick hello and then we will catch up a little bit and start our content for today. Oh, did you notice this? Did you notice this prettiness over my shoulder? This is a green screen, sadly, but not for long because we are headed off to Cape Cod for over 2 weeks, starting on Thursday. This is a little glimpse of Sandwich, Massachusetts, and this is some of the I wish I could reach out and touch it. Just a few more days. This is the Thornton Burgess Museum, and these are some of the Pierpoint glass dishes, the little souvenir dishes that are that we've talked about this before. I know some of you are great Thornton Burgess fans. He was a children's book writer on Cape Cod at the beginning of the 20th century. He was born in the 19th century, but what a character, what a conservationist, what he was one for causes and helping the animals in every possible way. I bought this book. It's a super collectible book. I'm going to bring it with me to Cape Cod. I forget what the name of it is, but it's about Aunt. Ooh, I almost had it. Aunt something's party, whatever. They apparently he and his neighbor, who I'm not sure was actually a blood relative, but a neighbor and a friend at least. And they used to have these parties in her garage on Friday nights, and they would call it a specific thing. That's the title of the book. And they would put out food for all of the like forest folk, the raccoons and the chippies and the squirrels and all those characters, and they would actually come and feed them out of their hands. And this went on for years. It sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like there's a little element of danger there, but it sounds like it was a lot of fun. So I bought a book on that, and yeah, I just love all of that Thornton Burgess lore. It's so pretty. And his house that he owned, not his family house, because that's now a private house, sadly, the one that's on the mill pond. But the house that he bought is now open to the public, and there's a jam kitchen there, so you can like take classes in making different kinds of jam. It's so charming, right? So charming. So that's what is over my shoulder today. Olivia, great to see you in Ireland. You made it home okay. Hope the flight was okay, not too bumpy, not too crazy, not too exhausting. I'm very glad you were here. I'm so sorry I couldn't come out and get together. It has just been wildly busy for the last well, I mean the last 3 years, but like particularly so the last few weeks as I ramp up to taking a long overdue break. Olivia, I'm glad you're back. You sat all morning in the sun, roasting over there in Ireland, fifth load of washing done. Do men purposely never wash their clothes? Needless to say, piles and piles of it, all the while reading my fabulous Magpie Times. Fantastic. What a fabulous read. Hats off to all of you who wrote and contributed articles. Just superb. Absolutely. I'm so amazed by, and not that I was expecting, garbage, but I'm so amazed by the quality of writing that so many people sent in. I almost regret, as soon as I started saying that sentence, I almost regret uttering it because I don't want to put anybody off. So many people think, "Oh, I'm not a writer. I can't possibly write an article." Andrea, if you're watching, Andrea in the UK, she did one of those where she said she has a piece on the Green Man, of English folklore, the Green Man, the face hidden under the leaves, and when spring comes, he's like still alive, still there, ready to renew. She wrote a short article on the Green Man, and she did a beautiful pattern that will be one of the free patterns in this Magpie Times. It's about to come out on June 17th. And Andrea said, I don't think I can do an article. I'm not much of a writer. And and then she actually wrote in the email, turns out it was easier and better than I thought. I didn't know I had it in me. That's the key, isn't it? That's the key to life, is just having the confidence to write something. You might feel like you're not a great writer, but I'll tell you what, I bet everybody who contributed to the first issue of Magpie thought, I'm not much of a writer, or I'm not a professional writer, and everything that's in the magazine I think is fantastic, and the second issue is no exception. It is such beautiful, eloquent, inspired writing. So thank you to everybody who's contributing. You're making it possible to start a new fiber arts magazine, and it's going very well, quality wise and input wise. Thank you so much. Carol P., greetings from dark and rainy Wisconsin. That's hard to believe. I was just looking at pictures of us while I was looking for a picture for today. I was looking back at our trip. What was it, September, that I was over there in Wisconsin at the Fiberfest with you? Everything was so beautiful and bright and warm. It's hard to picture Wisconsin being rainy and dark, but I believe you. Karen, good to see you in Black Forest, Colorado. Good morning. Cool and sunny there. Ryan, you logged on from North Texas. Your cup of tea. You are at your typewriter. You love that old-fashioned typewriter, don't you? As you tune in. Peace and love to you too, my love. Good to see you. Robin, good to see you. Another Wisconsinite. Good day to stay inside. Well, good day to get some projects done, right? I'm sorry, it's poopy weather, but I'm sure we will all be complaining about the extreme heat sooner rather than later, right? Hopefully. Lisa, great to see you. Hello and good morning. Catherine, great to see you in Southern California. You got home from you were on a long road trip. I still haven't called. I'll do that later today. I'm pacing myself, man. It's been a lot. Barbara, can't wait to be on the Cape in person. I'll gladly watch a video. Well, it's the next best thing, isn't it? I honestly can't believe I forgot to, I went to the Cape 2 weekends ago to cover the rug show. It's the biennial Cranberry Guild rug show, so I was out there. And then remember, I had the table because I thought, well, if I'm going to be at the rug show all day, might as well have a table and bring my first two books and the first issue of Magpie and some other stuff. So I'll show you what I brought. Oh shoot, I wanted to show you some wool. All right, I'll make a post in Facebook later. But yeah, it was great to be on the Cape. I will sneak any reason any day to be on the Cape, whether it's virtually or in person. In person's better. But this kind of stuff for me is a placeholder, looking at photos. My son Teddy, like every night lately, because we're really creeping up to the time for the trip, he just wants to go on the phone while we're falling asleep and look at pictures. And I try to think of places that we go on Cape Cod, like Provincetown and Wellfleet. We go over Uncle Tim's Bridge. We go to Fort Hill and Eastham. I try to think of the different restaurants where we always go. God, he just eats it up. He loves looking at it. He's such a visual person, and he's such a vicarious liver. He could talk and talk and talk about the things that he loves. I think that's a great gift, to be able to connect with the things that you love, when you can't be physically connected. And it got me thinking, isn't it a funny thing in life when you get to be the kind of a person, or of an age, where all you want is to be in a special place. Like for me, it's always the Cape. I just want to be at the Cape. It's like, I don't want new clothes. I've never gotten my nails done in my life. I don't want really much, right? I want some materials to keep rug hooking, but I don't want anything. I just want to be there. And isn't it weird that we all have different special places, but when you are in one of your special places, it's like that is the best therapy you can get, and there's not a lot that can be wrong with the world. You know what I mean? Uh, I can't wait. And I'll be taking lots of pictures while I'm there. I might run some shows. We'll have to see how it goes. Stay tuned in. I always put announcements in the YouTube channel, Ribbon Candy Hooking, in our Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. And I've started to try to put announcements on Instagram, which I never remember because I'm not an Instagram person, but I'm trying to become a little more Instagrammy because I know a lot of people are on there. Okay, Barbara, Olivia, best flight ever. Fantastic. Seems like flights are getting better. Maybe the technology is just getting better and they're able to skirt horrible storms more easily. Don't you remember back in the day, like almost wetting your pants, and not just because they wouldn't allow you to stand up and use the bathroom, but because it was so bumpy, like so often? I find in more recent years it's just not really like that anymore, unless it's a coincidence. But I'm happy for you, Olivia. Linda H., great to see you in Massachusetts. Naturebound, I have a picture of you. I hope that's okay in our thumbnail. And I'm looking forward to seeing you hopefully next week or the week after while I'm out there. Jessica, great to see you. Hello. It's a hot sunny day in Ohio. This is the last week of school. Oh, wow. You get out of school early, you lucky ducks. My kids are still, well, they'll still be in school officially, like while we're on Cape Cod, and then there's another week when we get out. It's just not like it used to be. I'm not going to start, but it makes me really upset and sad that the kids spend so much of their life in school, and that you have to explain it if you don't want them there. Like you have to explain that you're doing something with the family, like taking a vacation or doing something educational with the family. It's so backwards in my mind. I feel like when I was a kid, I was sometimes in school. I was in school a lot, but there was a huge summer break, and there were lots of other breaks in the middle of the school year that made it exciting to be outside and in trees and hanging out on the roof of the house and being a kid. That's exciting, Jessica. I'm happy. I wonder what you're working on now. I don't know what your current project is. Interesting. The Cape and I will always welcome you here. Almost time. Almost time. So it's been a busy weekend here. Let me catch up with you for a minute. So I've got Magpie going, and then I'll be looking to put together the next Magpie. I did make the announcement last week, and Patreon people have known all along that I'm working on a book project rather aggressively. I've been working on it for a little while. It's going to be an all Halloween book, which our craft does not have. We so far don't have an all Halloween rug hooking book, and it's not just rug hooking. With any publication that I have my name on, you are very welcome to do hooking, punching, mini punch, anything fiber, felting, wet felting, dry felting, quilly, bria rugs, latch, locker, hook, whatever you want. Quilting, right? Your needlepoint cross stitch. I'm stopping. I'm gonna say, but you're able to do anything with the designs, and we're using all ribbon candy hooking designs for this book. I have to get a little bit more savvy about promoting my brand and lay off of promoting everybody else's brands. So there's going to be, I would say, 40 to 50 patterns in the Halloween book, and you have not seen most of them. Most people have not seen most of them because I'm taking a bunch to the Cape, and I'm going to be doing a bunch myself, mostly as hooked projects. But it's going to be a great project. And if you want to be involved, you can either pick a pattern from Ribbon Candy Hooking and get going, one of the Halloween or overtly autumn patterns, or you can send me an email to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com if you're looking for something different and you're thinking, oh, I really want to work on a pattern that no one else is working on, because there will definitely be like a header image for each, I don't want to say chapter, but every time you open a page, it's going to be like, okay, here comes this pattern, right? And it'll be like the pattern and the traceable gridded pattern, and then a little bit of text talking about the pattern, the inspiration for it. There's going to be a lot of vintage poetry, hopefully some recipes. Feel free to send your autumn themed recipes also for this book. So it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag and a bit of a potpourri of fun things, all inspirational, very accessible, and I want there to be a lot of free patterns in there. So I need people to be doing a lot of hooking right now. And if you really want to hook something that no one else is hooking, just send me an email and I'll send you a bunch of images of ones that people have not claimed or ones that I have literally just made and nobody's seen yet. You might get lucky like that, right? So just let me know if you want to be involved and how much you want to be involved, because I can definitely use help with this project. I want to be putting it together in August, and I want to put it out like late August. I want to put it out at the end of September because I want it to come out for October, for the month of Halloween. I want it to be a Halloween product. And then we'll get going on our next book project. That'll be a lot of fun too. So, yeah, so this weekend's been really busy as I try to get all of the orders out and get ramped up. But I did go back to the Goodspeed Opera House. I had to go twice to see this musical called The Mystery of Edwin Drood. It's one of my favorite scores, and it always has been since I was in theater school years ago. And my sister and I have loved it, but we happened to go separately to see it. So the first time I went, I took Teddy, and I have to say we were sitting in like the second row, and I was fairly distracted. I really enjoyed it, and he really loved it. But I was fairly distracted because with his autism, he was loving it, and he was tapping his foot constantly, even when it wasn't a song, and it was making me really nervous because I wondered if it was agitating like the whole row of connected seats. You know what I mean? So I was a little bit distracted. So when my sister said, "Oh, let's go see it one more time before it closes," how can we not see Edwin Drood one more time? It never comes up. So we went yesterday and we popped out. I was naughty and popped out for a few hours, and we had our cocktail on the deck. Such a beautiful, I mean, it's a super professional, right? It's like a Broadway scaled theme. It's usually like one of the entry points for Broadway shows. They've historically tested a lot of shows. It's in East Haddam, Connecticut. It's right on the Connecticut River, and man, it is so beautiful. It was so great. I think the show is playing through June 2nd. Mm, smoothie time. It's not booze yet, believe me. Um, and then they're opening another show called A Complicated Woman. So I don't even know what that's about yet, but that was my time off of the weekend, and I enjoyed it immensely. And then it was back to work, and I had this thought, holy mackerel, I never showed you the photos that I took of the rug show of the Cranberry Guild on Cape Cod 2 weekends ago. So let's do that right now. It really was a beautiful show. It's worthy of a good long look. Sorry, let me come down here. Somehow I'm not set up. There we go. So I am at, here I am. I am in my, and then there's Maud dress shift, being comfortable because it's a long day being at an event like this, and I only brought a few things. I was not set up to camel my way over with a ton of supplies. So I brought both of my first books and the first issue of Magpie, which is now sold out, and I'm waiting to get some more issues, more copies of the first issue, and the second issue will come on June 17th when I'll start shipping. So I brought a little bit of everything, and met Nature Bound and Cheryl. I don't think Cheryl's on today. Maybe she'll watch later. Two buddies that I hope to see when I'm out there in the next couple of weeks. It's so fun to put a face with a name. It's so sort of anonymous and often lonely running this show 3 times a week and sitting in a studio space and not actually connecting with anybody. And I love teaching in person, and I love speaking because it gives me the chance to connect with people in person. But it's such a big deal for me to put faces with names and to connect with people. While the show was going on, while the show was hung, they had this whole stage area because this is a bit of a small auditorium in a community center in Harwich on Cape Cod. This is also where the Cranberry Guild meets, I think, every, I want to say Monday or Tuesday. You'll have to look up their ATHA chapter. Speaking of which, before I forget, if you subscribe to ATHA Magazine, the new issue just came from me like 1 minute before the show started. The mailman just dropped this off. So this is ATHA. I'll have to open it later to see a theme, but we'll look at this together. It looks like a beautiful issue, nice primitive. We were just talking about the primitive tulips, like the fracture style tulips. There it is, right on the cover of ATHA. So yeah, they had this stage set up in such a way that people could hook up there while the show was happening, and I thought, well, that's clever. And here we are again in front of one of the displays. They had I think 4 or 5 of these style of exhibiting flats where it was two-sided and you could check out people's work on both sides. So I and this is what my stall looked like. This is the little book rack I brought with me, handy dandy, really easy to set up. Some of the, I did a few, I brought some of the Alice Butler patterns, remember? And I brought a bunch of sets of wool, sets of 9 instead of crazy 8s. And I had them in Cape Cod sets. So I did sets that were, I think, sort of unique to Cape Cod, like Fort Hill is one of my favorite places. Old Cape Cod, like the song. Cafe Blase was a wild outdoor cafe that was on the main street in Provincetown, is now the patio, a completely different place. And then a couple of garden sets. So I had a little bit of wool with me. I didn't go completely crazy because of space. I brought a ton of vintage patterns and some of my own patterns. These are the patterns that you've seen more recently, that many people have snapped up. So these are the ones that are getting mailed out as well. Now, here we come right to the first flat of the first exhibit. Now, this is a themed one because, Janet Connor. She had a beautiful article in the first issue of Magpie. She's one of my favorite people in rug hooking. She's so painterly, classy. She's so accessible, right? She's so also into outreach, and she's very forthcoming with information. So talented and a real particular style, very impressionist leaning style. So she did a class there in Impressionism or workshop. So these rugs on this flat are a product of that class. So let's look at them one by one. I wanted to show you the tag. Oh, sorry, still my table. Sorry about that. These are out of order apparently. I brought with me. I didn't bring a lot of finished rugs because I just couldn't. But I brought this rug that I did that was the cover of the first Magpie time. So this is the piece that I hooked for the first cover. I think you've seen this piece. I wanted to bring it so people could see it in person because it is larger than most pieces I do. Just because time is such a press for me always. Now here we go looking at the Impressionist rugs, under the umbrella of the Janet Connor workshop. This one I'm going to show you the tag first is by Kathy Glynn. So it's designed by Kathy and it's hooked by Kathy, and the piece is called Truro Cottages at Daybreak. Truro is a beautiful town. It's the second town before it's the town before Provincetown. So it's the second to last town on the tip of the Cape, right? So it's like here at the knuckles. And we stay here at the elbow in Chatham when we go, but we always travel to the tip to P-Town and drink in all of that culture and fun and color. Truro is a beautiful town. It's very, very quiet right before Provincetown, and it is so crazy and windswept out there. I'm going to show you the piece that she did just to set it up in your mind. That's where the sand dunes are from the Do You Like Pina Colada? You know that song, their part about making love in the dunes on the Cape. It's got to be those dunes. There's dunes in Sandwich too, but I'm thinking they're the really remote dunes that are out in Truro, P-Town. But it's a beautiful area out there. It's the area where the Pilgrims first landed, and early settlers started plucking up trees like they were mushrooms. And then there were no more trees, and the wind started blowing across the arm. The further up you go, the more narrow the land becomes, and extreme erosion, as you can imagine. So without the trees as a blockade, the wind started blowing across the land and it became very hilly and made all of these crazy sand dunes over time. A very different landscape than it would have been, for example, in 1620. So lots have changed. A lot has changed out there, but the place itself is sparsely settled and is so romantic, so picturesque, such extraordinary wild beauty. So this is Kathy's piece, self-designed and no teacher named. If you notice these tags, I always have strong feelings about this, and I shouldn't express them because it's not fair. I always think it is a bit of a moment in time when you go to a rug show and everything is tagged in such a way that the teacher seems to be more important than the person who hooked the rug, and the designer seems to be more important. And it's, I don't know, I just feel like the person who hooks the rug, this is your rug, obviously name the name of the designer who did the pattern if it's not an original pattern. With this one it is an original pattern. But just so you know, if you have taken classes with me and stuff, don't feel like you have to bend over backward to ever say that I was your teacher. Once you've been taught and you make your beautiful pieces all on your own, that is you. That is not me anymore. Rita, good to see you. You're checking in from the road. Oh, I'll take it. So what a gorgeous piece this is, right? So this is under the Janet Connor Impressionism Workshop. Beautiful, very tranquil piece. Lovely, looks like sunrise between these tiny cottages. This whole area is lined with cottages. It is right there on the ocean. Wild and lovely. Beautiful directional hooking here. A very strong horizontal, right? Getting lots of pops of color. This is a great way to approach Impressionism. Impressionism is hard. Don't confuse like all Impressionism with, for example, pointillism like Seurat. It's different, but certainly we associate the look of Impressionism with little flecks of color, right? And that is hard to do in rug hooking because we're working with fiber. This is a great way to do it. Have a good, stable, horizontal or vertical, whatever, a strong directional pull to your hooking, directional hooking of any sort, and then pop in a few flecks of color here and there for glints of light, right? Impressionism is all about the light, your impression of what the light looks like. Makes a great composition here, having two little houses that are kind of a pair, like little bookends, right? Always good to have multiples of anything in a composition. You get a nice view. We talked about this on Friday night at cocktail time. It's lovely seeing the side of that cottage on the right because we're seeing the light hit it. So when we talk about what color do we use for light, we were talking about lamplight coming out of a window on Friday night. So that would have been a lot more subdued, I think. Or maybe that was last Wednesday. I don't know. It would be a lot more subdued than, for example, this example where the sun is actually bathing the side of the house. And the color on the side of the house is quite similar, if not the same, as the sun itself, right? A complete wash. Kirsten, good to see you. It's just a beautiful piece. Did you notice how Kathy whipped the edges of this piece using the same light blue of the sky on the top? It looks like she whipped with wool strips and the mixed browns on the bottom. I really like that because it gives it a good stable frame, but it also, color-wise, isn't taking away from the colors that are already there. Sometimes putting on a frame of a completely different color makes a good, strong border to stop your eye, but sometimes it becomes a little bit distracting, or you're adding a color to a composition that is already perfect. I love the choice in this case to stick with the colors that are already in it and to just use extra wool strips to do the whipping around the edges and finish it off in that way that there really isn't anything new to think about. Beautifully hooked piece, beautiful framed piece. Kathy Glynn did an awesome job. These are the cottages that are out there. There's lots of cottages, but this is one series of cottage. These are super tiny, and yeah, they're right on top of each other, but as soon as you exit the cottage, you are literally on the beach, just like this. And then you have this vast, endless, eternal expanse of beautiful beach. It is just gorgeous out there. Absolutely gorgeous. Now here's the next one. This is going to be lobster pots and kayak at it's actually Hemingway, I think. I know this street because it's right before Fort Hill. It's like Hemingway, but it's Hemingway. Beautiful piece. Another beautiful piece. Oh no, hang on, wait a minute. Um, Give me 1 second. My plug came undone. We do not want to die that way, do we? There we go. Um, yeah, so this is right at the edge of Fort Hill. Let me show you what the whole piece looks like. This is by Meredith Harris, both designed and hooked by Meredith. Another beautiful Impressionist piece. This is a really lovely area. You go down this street and you see the back of the walking trails called Fort Hill that go through these just expanses of fields, wildflower fields, a little bit Monet, a bit more New England, but also through these gorgeous marshes where there's lots of creatures and lots of noises, lots of birds and fish, frogs, snakes, everything. It's insects, sadly, but they're there. But for the grace, they're all there, and it's a beautiful place. And behind it, you can go down this road, Hemingway, and it ends you at this view where you can pick up the marshland walking trails on your right, or the shoreline walking trail on your right. And there's a lot of fishermen here and quahoggers who are in there feeling around with their feet. It's also like a literal breeding ground for horseshoe crabs. And right at the beginning of the summer, you see them in there having a wild party, if you know what I mean, on top of each other in huge numbers. It's very exciting. And then these beautiful, fragile little sandbars in the distance. Some are larger and have a house or a lighthouse. It's just a beautiful view. This is a beautiful place. This composition really captures the way that it feels on a not sunny vacation type of a day, right? This is more of an overcast sky. Hard to tell the time of day. It doesn't look like a threatening sky. It looks like the sun is coming right in on the traps and on a kayak that's there waiting. Little boats in the distance. You get the feeling of activity. Things are happening. There's lots of buoys in the water. Life is happening, but it's not overcrowded. As a composition, it's a very tranquil composition, right? The sky is just beautiful, lots of hope and promise of more sun. You see a lot of that bright blue hiding behind the grays, lots of values of grays as well. And all of that reflected in the water. It's a beautiful mirror image. The water has a little bit more depth and blue, right? More jewel tones. Really beautiful. It really is beautiful. Kirsten says the kayak is exquisite. It is. All of these, it's a lot of color around the buoys, but they read perfect, not, I'm sorry, the traps. It's a lot of color around the traps. It reads perfectly as traps, right? You get exactly what that is. And then the kayak is really striking against the blue water, right? Van Gogh colors, yellow and blue opposites, and against the collection of traps. And it's a great storytelling piece, isn't it? There's no people in this piece, but it's a great storytelling piece. There's the story of when are the fishermen going to come and pull up the buoys and more traps? Are all the traps up? Are there more traps down there? What's in the traps? Was it a good haul? There's lots of thought and detail in this piece. It's just absolutely beautiful piece. Let's look at the next one. This is by, the designer is Gregory Parker, and it is made by Kathy Blake Parker. So I think Gregory B. Parker and Kathy also B. Parker. Oh God, I remember this piece. It's called Happy Birthday, Happy Bath Day, Happy Bath Day, Happy Bath Day, or it's maybe birthday. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading it. To Oh, I can't read it. The pin is right through it. If you know, let me know. I would love to give the correct information. Sorry about that. Wait till you see this. It's an extraordinary piece. It's a large piece. I'm gonna pull in close to the other tag that's on it. We'll get more info that way. This is such a beautiful Impressionist piece. Now, this is leaning even away from Impressionism. We tend to think about Impressionism as outdoor, right, landscapes. Not always, right, because it is technically a style, but it tends to be a style that's dominated by landscape painters, isn't it? Now, once in a blue moon, you get an exception like Van Gogh's interior of his little cottage that he shared with Gauguin, right, in the countryside. Um, Impressionism is still a style, right? Even though we're used to associating it with specific subjects, it's still a style. This is certainly an Impressionist style leaning toward expressionist. And I say that because of the introduction of all of the wild color. Now, it could be that this frog is actually these colors. I don't know enough about frogs. They still scare me. Jocelyn is always holding them. They still frighten me. They move very fast and they make crazy noises, but they are beautiful. They are beautiful. This is a stunning piece. I'm going to take you for a ride, so hang on if this makes you motion sick. I first want to look at the tag a little bit better. If we can, let me see how large I can get this image. Ooh, it's going to be hard, isn't it? Hang on, let me give one more good push. There we go. And okay, oh, happy birthday to come. Happy birthday to come. Oh, oh, I can't read it. Can you all read it? I don't think I can make it any larger. I'm wondering if is the frog having babies? That's what I'm wondering. It's got a full story there, and I'm guessing you are looking at a screen that's larger than the postage stamp that I'm looking at. So hopefully the text there is legible for you, and you can appreciate the subject even more. What I want to talk about is the technique and the making of this piece, because can you tell that for the most part this composition is made up of very wide primitive strips, like primitive larger than an 8 strip, super wide ripped strips. So when we talk about primitive rug hooking, we're talking about a size 8 strip or higher. This is much higher than an 8, right? These are just ripped pieces that are hooked in there that gives us this great feeling, this great flow, lots of color change. And that is the part that makes it feel like an impressionistic piece, right? If you look behind the frog, to the left of the frog, all those light blues and pinks, all of those neutrals, fleshy, ivory colors, right? They all blend together to make our eye read that as a light area as opposed to a darker area. Really striking. The eyeballs of the frog are hooked a little bit thinner. Still pretty wide cuts all in. Not directional hooking here, at least inside the frog's face, right? Really a lot of movement. And that creates so much energy, doesn't it? So much energy and interest. There's more directional hooking that kind of echoes the shape of the frog to the right. I'm going to move it so we can look at it in detail. It was so exquisite to look at it. There's wool of all different kinds, recycled wool, reclaimed wool, cut up clothing. There's bits of yarn, I'm pretty sure, in this. It was such a mishmash of so many different materials. I thought it was just a striking piece. Color-wise, it blew me away. It's a really highly charged piece with a little bit of black outlining, and doesn't the black outlining really further the piece? It really helps, doesn't it? I'm going to make it small again, at least a little bit, because I want to look at it one more time before we move on. This is still part of the Janet Connor workshop. A lot of these pieces are self-designed, right? So are taken from photographs, and I think that's great. There's also a lot of commercial patterns in this show, so it's not like it's all one thing. There's a great mixture. Gosh, that's pretty, isn't it? Color-wise, it's just over the top. It's just such a fun piece. I'm going to move on because we've got lots to look at. So this is so the designer here is going to be Janet Connor herself. This is hooked by Carol Smith, And this is called Monet Marine View. Marine View. I'm just looking at the close up of the corner here, and I'm looking at this pretty border, 2 rows of the gold, and then going into the black. But look at the bottom right corner, right? More directional hooking. And I love this sort of higgledy-piggledy addition of all of these reedy green grassy bits, right? Right against that directional hooking. It's not all being hooked vertically, right? Up and down. It's being hooked horizontally, and the greenery is being introduced in a very organic manner. It's very different. These are all kind of tips and tricks to hooking in an impressionistic style, and there's nobody better than Janet Connor to do that, right? This is really her forte. She hooks in lots of styles and designs in lots of styles, but she's especially good, I think, at impressionism because she has such a painter's eye, that it helps a lot. And she's excellent with light. This piece is another example of how well she does with light. The reflection of the interrupted sky, right? Many clouds in the sky. It looks like a dawn piece again. Could be dusk, but it's probably dawn. Little catamaran type boat floating by, little village. Looks almost like Mont Saint Michel, something like that. Not high enough, I guess, to be Mont Saint Michel, but little distant village with prominent church over there. A couple of boats, well reflected in the water. This is very Monet, isn't it? It's getting right outside of Monet's comfort zone with colors. Monet normally works with he doesn't do like Van Gogh did with opposite colors. He doesn't do complementary colors. He usually worked with, if he was working with blue, he'd do a lot of green, which he has here too. But there's also a lot of orange and yellow in this. So he's working with colors that are also fairly close on the color wheel, not necessarily opposites. Monet usually works that way. He really likes colors that, in terms of their tone, are quite close together. That often doesn't work, but Monet was a bit of a magician, as I'm sure you know, and he was able to pull this off. It's a slightly different color palette for him. That I guess the story is the dawn, right? The orange and the yellows peeking through are creating this beautiful, quiet reflection. There's still life happening, even though it seems to be a quiet time of the day. Really, really striking piece, really well done. I think in this slideshow for today, the only pieces I have are the Impressionist wall. Oh no, I have some from the middle too. I'll keep going. So this piece is going to be called Red River Beach Sunrise by Amy Natiel, designed and hooked. And again, this is Janet Connor's workshop. I'm looking at this crop of the corner, bottom right-hand corner again, and I'm seeing a nice blend of hooked wool that looks cut, right, like machine cut, fairly similar size, but then I'm seeing the introduction of some loosely spun yarn or roving that's been woven in, that's been hooked in. So this is Red River Beach Sunrise. Let's look at the larger piece. Okay, oh yeah, these are just gorgeous. These are just gorgeous. I mean, it does really read as an impressionistic piece, doesn't it? It's really beautiful. Maybe taken from a photograph, not taken from a painting in this case. There's something different, a couple of things that are happening here that I think are really striking and making this a great composition. Let me take one sip of my smoothie. So we are looking at a really straightforward composition, a sunset, right? The story is a sunset. That's the main character. That's what we're looking at. But we've got some things going on that's going to make this a really unusual composition. We've got a border, right? We have a bit of a asymmetrical border because we are seeing the slant of it's either earth or a little bit of grass coming down, or it's possibly the angle. But we are seeing that the bottom right-hand corner is a bit interrupted by the silhouette of earth against water. That's always interesting, isn't it? Because it's like we're peeking over something. It's like we're sneaking a peek of something. It gives you this weird, not weird, this stolen vantage, right? So we're looking past things that are closer to us in the foreground, like beach grass or just long grasses, in this bit of earth, and we're looking out toward the sunset. But in the middle is this expanse of water that is really lovely. And there are two things going on in the water that I think are important and really help this composition. One of them is by the shore, the little ripples of movement, those little echoes as the water hits the rocks and makes these small ripples. That's really interesting in terms of composition, because we do have a very strong 50-50 contrast between the vertical water, right, the horizon line, and the horizontal expanse, right, with the horizon line. Sorry, I still need to wake up. Hardly slept last night. I was kept thinking about the play, and I was getting myself all excited and dreamy, and the really contrasting very theatrically with the verticals of the beach grass. So we've got a very strong 50-50 pull. And what really is making it exciting is the curve of the border, right? That dark corner, but also those rippling waves, right? It creates a lot of softness in the foreground, gives us a lot of interesting things before we even look out to the sunset. The sunset is mirrored in this water that is not quite still. In the distance, it's more still, right? A little, you can tell this is probably tidal water because you can see the waves are hitting the shore a little bit, but it seems very peaceful. The way that the sun is reflected, almost like a rainbow on the water, and then the repetition through the ripples or over the ripples of that bright yellow sun getting smaller and smaller. Isn't that something? That's something that you see with your eye, but that's so hard to capture. Whether you're a fine art painter or you're a fiber artist, it's very hard to capture those small moments. This is really well done and very cleverly paced, right? The sort of rhythm of the sun shining down on the water, that reflection carrying but being broken. It's still a very strong storytelling piece. You see the busy water, you see the sunny day, and the water's coming right at you, almost like stepping stones. So pretty. And the colorful, the sort of liberty of taking extra colors and putting them into the reflection really is exciting. It pulls the whole piece together compositionally and is just exciting to look at, right? A little bit of a rainbow blast. It looks like it was done with a dip dye because I'm seeing the yellow go to orange, go to red, go to purple, go to blue. So that certainly looks like a dip dye to me. It's just pretty. And that little moment of the darker orange right at the horizon line, isn't that something? And then going to that Dijon type of a color. Just a beautiful piece, a really beautiful piece. These are all gorgeous pieces. Here comes a Van Gogh. Van Gogh, this is a very recognizable composition, Cypress Tree. This is the designer is Janet Connor, and this is done by Tina Maloney. So let's look at this close up. We can see from this corner that this is also done with wool strips of different sizes and that soft spun yarn or roving or several kinds of yarn. I have to say, I don't know if it's a thing of this particular guild, but this guild, at least at this show, was showing a lot of rug pieces that were mixed media, right? Not just wool and yarn, but lots of different texture of wool, yarn, right, and wool strips. So a real mix, and you don't always see that, do you? You sometimes just see the traditional straight up wool strips. In this case, we're looking at a lot of pieces that are a bit of a fusion, a combo of mixed fibers that include wool strips. So kind of unusual, very unusual. And I'm wondering if that was one of the things that Janet Connor talked about in teaching this Impressionism class for hooking. If one of the thoughts was, hey, you know what? You're going to give yourself legs if you bring in some other fibers. You're going to be surprised at how much more mileage you get from using all of these other fibers. I wonder. I'll have to ask Janet. She's a good buddy of mine. This is Van Gogh's Cypress Tree. Judy says it might also be a log fallen or washed up on it. Yep, that last one, Judy, you're right. It could be a log fallen or washed up on the shore that makes you want to climb over it and dip your toes into those ripples near the shore. Absolutely, that's so true, isn't it? So true. It was that last piece was a very tactile piece. A lot of these pieces, this is a guild that's right around Cape Cod and Plymouth, like that part of Massachusetts, and for people who are from this area, and I'm one of them, and I have a special love of the land here. But there is something so gentle and approachable about like the New England landscape. It's not wild, right? It's very quiet. If you like wild beauty, it's probably not the part of the country to vacation in, right? It's or to choose to live. Wild beauty, the much bigger beauty, the bigger views, the bigger expanses, the wild colors in the mountains, that's more out west. But what we get here in New England are these very quiet moments and these very small views. And they are approachable and very tactile. And I love that the kind of storytelling that we're seeing right now really reflects the scale of the views we get here on the Cape. We don't have like thick woods, right? We don't have giant mountains. We don't have that stuff. It's all kind of in miniature. It's just a different, very manageable landscape, very quaint, right? It's very different. Barbara says, yay for the fusion of fibers. Absolutely. The more the merrier. Isn't it true? So this is Van Gogh cypresses. I remember, I don't know if my mom is on, but we had this on the wall of the dining room when we lived in Rhode Island for the whole time I was growing up. I always thought it was a Cezanne piece when I was younger, but it's a Van Gogh piece. Classic. I mean, I don't know how I didn't know that because of his many cypresses, right? Cezanne did cypresses too, but the wild sky is a bit of a dead giveaway, isn't it? The great kind of straw colors in the ground, right? The sort of cornfield colors with the very cool greens and the blues, right? The very spearmint greens, pistachio greens, cool greens mixed with the warmer greens, right? The yellow greens and tips of yellow on the edges of the trees, the cypresses, in the ground. It is a very French landscape, isn't it? And the wild swirling in the skies. It's just beautiful. This is a great piece for doing directional hooking. And one of the things that one of the many things that Van Gogh did very well was he separated elements and motifs within a composition and he patterned them differently. So he has always got a cypress tree. Trees are very, very dramatic. Lots of movement, right? Lots of very light lights, lots of pops against very dark darks. And same thing with his distant hills and mountains. I don't know if there's many mountains there. Very blue, right? Very sort of almost purpley blue, very evocative, romantic, poetic. And then, of course, his skies are the most famous. They have the most pronounced patterns, right? But you see, if you look at the breakdown of patterning in this one piece, the ground is patterned, right? Dit 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 dot, and very very small scale, very tight pattern. So it doesn't read as a pattern. It reads more like a solid. We're looking at some of the bigger plants. They are independently patterned, right? And that was the way he liked it. The mountains with strokes, right? With lines, with striations. Perfect for a rug hooker, isn't it? We do straight shots with pieces of wool and yarn. We do lines. They don't have to be straight lines, but we do straight shots. And then up in the sky, lots of movement, lots of softness. The classic Van Gogh sky, right? This is about to become a starry night. It's just lush and gorgeous. This is a piece that is called Autumn in Bass River. Oh, I know just where that is. That's right in the middle of the Cape around Yarmouth. Sandy Arnoma, does that look right? Still Janet Connor's class. I'm looking at this piece here, beautifully framed. Isn't that a dainty frame, perfect gold frame that's going to fit this piece perfectly. Lots of directional hooking here. Now, doesn't that give you the idea? All of these pieces we are looking at a lot of directional hooking. We're seeing a little higgledy-piggledy, right, that's in between directions, right? A lot of horizontals for the ground, a lot of verticals reaching up, and then a lot of swirling and patterning as we get to the skies. The sky is always big for Impressionists, right? Not just Monet, not just Van Gogh, right? Impressionists loved a big sky. That's why the area in the Netherlands, right near where I used to live, that was a big artist colony as well. Trying to think of the name of the big colony, Laren. It was called Laren. Beautiful town, same period of time, right? A lot of the same artists visiting, and that school, right, that worked right around that area, as opposed to, for example, Paris and the environs. They were very interested in the sky, much more than the ground. And you get those classic Dutch skies. Laren is Laren. You get these classic Dutch skies that are the whole composition. You get a composition like this, and this much of it is land with a couple of cows, and this much sky. Because the sky was of great interest, trying to capture the mood of the sky, and I think the power of the sky is a big part of Impressionism. That's something we could talk about for many episodes. I think we're going to be seeing some of that. Yeah, we are seeing some of that here translated into a very Cape Cod composition. This is just gorgeous. I'm not sure where this view is. This could be, this is Bass River. I was going to say, I think it's Orleans, but if it's Bass River, it's more toward Yarmouth or Dennis. But this is really, really an exciting composition. Did you notice when we looked at the tag, there was a little seabird on the bottom right? He's a little bit covered up because all the tags are going to the bottom right, so that's where the tag belongs. But he's the only like character in the piece. I think the main character, right, the star of the show is the windmill, followed closely, right, followed closely by the view behind the windmill. It's really extraordinary. This composition has a very little pathway, very small, little sort of footway, right? Not something that's beaten down, something that's paved, something that's covered with stones or seashells. No, it's just a little break where you can walk through and get a little bit closer to the water. Maybe that's where fishermen go. Maybe that's where kids go to try to get their feet wet. Maybe that's where adults go to try to get their feet wet. Beautiful view, lots of light playing on the windmill. You're seeing that classic Cape Cod view, all of these bars, right, of sand. Tiny and temporary, right? They're disappearing faster than you can hook them. Um, but absolutely beautiful view, lots of layers of interest from the very familiar ground to the windmill, right? All this beautiful man-made piece, and then in the distance, all of these shelves of color, little islands interrupted with water or vice versa, and then the distant sandy bar with a little bit of vegetation, and then I think lovely setting sun and wispy clouds. Now, one of the things that I really love about this piece is on the bottom right, the way that that one little, the taller grasses or that small tree reaches up and makes almost a little arc over the bird, right? That is very cozy and convenient. That's a great compositional trick. It also draws our eye toward the windmill, and the windmill is so interesting to look at because it's also done in a very impressionist style, not a super realistic style. One of the things I love about it is the exchange of light to dark. When you get away from the sun and you get to the darker side of the windmill, that really pronounced line, right? That the side, right? It's made up of probably 6 or 8 sides, the building itself. My favorite thing about this composition is the play of color in between the slats on the windmill, right? It's not exactly the way that it is. It's pretty close to where the colors would be, but it's such an interesting device, putting little flashes of color in between the white. The white really frames out the color, makes them pop, draws you in. It's very playful. It almost looks like color cards from the hardware store when you're trying to choose your color for the wall, right? I mean, it's really beautiful. It mimics and reflects the colors that are already in the composition, but it does make your eye look at each individual color, right? Because it's all different shades of very many yellows and oranges and blues. It makes your eye look at them framed in white, and that is a much more kind of academic way to look at color than in the context of a composition, because then we're looking at color next to color, and that's when our eye does its own blending. That is Impressionism. But when you're seeing them framed out, just tiny snippets in white, it is exciting, and it does it for me at least. It makes me want to linger and look and say, okay, I see that blue. I think that cornflower blue is present. Oh, there it is. And what about that really deep mustard or that really straw yellow? And then your eye kind of wants to look for it and match it to where it is in the composition. It's a very fun piece. That makes it even more fun in my mind. Really love this. I really love this piece. I think it's just super, super, super striking. Here comes a piece called Welsh Landscape, and this is designed by Janet O'Connor and also hooked by Tina Maloney. So same hooker as the last piece. Okay, now this is making sense to me. This is a pillow. Now we're looking at Wales. This is another stunning piece, also by Tina. Doesn't the handling of this piece remind you of the last piece? Tina works in a very unique style, and it's working well. We are seeing levels or shelves of interest, of color, of landscape. The storytelling goes from the bottom up, right? Just like it did in the last composition with the windmill. We're looking at rocks and mossy rocks and maybe a tree trunk that are quite close to us. And then we're looking at that kind of burnt out straw colored grass, great patterning in there. And we are looking down over a ledge or a cliff at a landscape, right? That classic, UK quilt of many colors, all of these greens patched together like a crazy quilt, this darker green outlining, creating compartments, cells of different color, right? All of those lines, right? This whole composition is a vehicle to be able to show you all of these greens. The story is the view here, right? We've got the rocks that are kind of in a weird way blocking our view, which is helping because just like a fallen log, it's making us want to look beyond it, isn't it? And way beyond it, the gift, right? We are gratified by seeing there's a body of water over there. And seeing something like that is always a little jewel, isn't it? Oh, look at that. And then even further along, hazy skyline, right, on the tops of trees or the tops of hills, and then very bright white giving to a more sky blue. Beautiful colors, very pronounced changes from one piece of land to the next. It's portioned off beautifully, probably worked from a photograph. It's just another gorgeous piece, and it bears so much in common with the windmill piece in terms of little tricks and devices. And I think that's clever. It adds so much creativity when you have somebody like Tina herself, who is thinking about breaking up the composition in such a way that she's creating cells or little compartments, little pigeonholes of interest that she then populates with what she means. And it seems, at least in the two examples we just saw, what she means to do is showcase a specific color and to really showcase it by bordering it up. In this case, the Welsh landscape with the dark, but in the windmill landscape with the white slats of the windmill blades, right? Really beautiful, really beautiful. All right, let's keep going. We have a little bit more time. Let's look at one more. So this is another, okay, no, this is called Backyard, designed by Janet Connor and hooked by Joy Walters. Let's look at beautiful directional hooking here, I should have said. Lovely horizontal, right? Sorry, I flipped by it. Ooh, unexpected. Okay, this is gorgeous. Backyard. Gosh, if this is her backyard, I know who to be jealous of in this world. This has such a great impressionist feel. It feels a little bit like a Monet, but it has more of the yellow greens than I would expect to find in a Monet. It's also a very different composition, isn't it? I see it's different in that, and this isn't what we're talking about, but what for me is like a Monet is the breakdown of color, right? Seeing with all his Gavarni series, right? Seeing different plants in different places and collections of plants all close together. You see a lot of that in his later paintings. This is a little bit different because unlike Monet, we are seeing roses that are closer up. So with Impressionism, we don't always look at perspective, right? We're more looking at the view. We're looking at something that's framed out, and it's someone's interpretation that at the time was very avant-garde, someone's handling or interpretation of what the view is, and typically a view, right? Mostly landscape painting. This is a little bit different. It's like we're looking at a literal view, like a view out a window or a view from where you're standing, and we're seeing some of the elements are closer up. Very romantic, Kirsten. It really is. And others are further back. And it's very, very lush, isn't it? Lots of plants, flowering bushes, flower petals on the ground. You're getting the feeling that it is spring going into summer, because the roses, unless there's confusion of seasons, which there is allowed to be in art, there are roses there, so we're thinking kind of summer, but then again, we're seeing the petals having fallen off flowering trees, and that makes me think more spring. So maybe it is kind of a composite of all of the different things that Mother Nature does, right at that time of year. Part of what I like is the fact that those larger roses are right there, and heading out diagonally away from them is this row or this bar of flowers, and blue flowers, white flowers, purple flowers, red flowers. It's just gorgeous, leading us to the shady place where the petals have fallen off the tree and this little white gate, right? So it's not a boundless composition, is it? It's bound by the gate on one side of our view and on the other side by the water. So it's a manageable piece of land, and it is just colored with and littered with flowers, colors, and petals. It is super romantic. Yeah, you're right, Judy. It could be flower petals fallen from fruit trees. You're right. You're right. I have a pink tree in the backyard. It's some kind of a cherry blossom, and it already did its thing. And it only does its thing for about, it's so sad. There's one in the front yard for us too. Remember, this isn't my view. This is a green screen. And they drop their they flower and drop their petals within like a week. And it's so disappointing because it's less than a week. It's there and it's gone. It's just like for us, the lilacs here, the lilac bushes and trees. you smell it for a split second, and by the time you go, oh, I remember that smell, they're all gone. I wish there were some things that just lasted. I wish everything lasted a little bit longer, I guess, except maybe visits to the dentist and the skin doctor and all of that stuff. This is just a beautiful, and as Kirsten said, really romantic composition. Barbara says hydrangeas in the center. Could be, yeah, could be, probably is. You're right. That color is right for hydrangeas. It's a real mashup of plants, isn't it? And the colors in the water and in the sky I associate more with France and Monet. Those are really Monet blues, aren't there? There is such a color as Monet blue, and it's that darker value in the sky. It is a real color because he used it so much. It's close to the hydrangeas but not enough purple. But you do see that glittering on the water in the distance. And imagine how hard that is to do. Imagine how thoughtful you have to be able to get those sparkles on the water in the distance past the trees and to make them stand out as noticeably as they do, right? Because the trees are really a big showstopper. It literally stops your eye, this bar of plants and trees. And you still do notice the water in the background, and you notice that it's sparkling. Really is so pretty. Again, with this pattern, another impressionist device, painterly device, is to decide what patterns you want in what places. You can't full blast put your foot down on the gas and have everything be patterned, because otherwise it turns into a veritable riot and it can be confusing. In this case, we're looking at semi-realism in the handling of the roses that are close to us, and then we're looking at a quite large expanse of horizontal hooking. And it is those nice warm greens, isn't it? The Reseda greens, really, really pretty. And then moving from those colors to, and the colors of the ground and the plant are, in my mind, very Cape Cod colors. It's just the water on the Cape is typically much, much darker and murkier and a bit more threatening, you know. Who cares, right? It's all about color harmony. It's not about realism. Impressionism was never about realism. It was opposite. But it is a beautiful composition, and it's a remarkably successful composition because we're talking about a speed bump in the middle of it on a diagonal. And that has potential also to stop your eye right there, but it doesn't. It's very well done. It's very well balanced. It is super romantic. Don't you want to walk around this rose bush, avoid the thorns, and walk toward either the water or the little gate? I mean, I would want to walk that way with a coffee cup and my book, right? My best book for right now, and actually be there, be inside there. That's one of the things about Impressionism that the Impressionists tried to do, was to bring you to a place in their mind. And it wasn't really there because there were such pronounced color substitutions, right? And that was the point. They were giving you their impression. The dawn might not be a pinky peach color. Sometimes it is, once in a while. But the whole sky typically isn't, right? Or nor is it purple. But the way that the Impressionists saw the color and made these substitutions was very mathematical. It was creative and mathematical. It was technically difficult. And while people really fought against Impressionism when it became a popular painting trend, they came around to it relatively quickly as art styles go. Right? There's so many art styles that people didn't appreciate the style or the artist until centuries later. Impressionist, it took like a decade for people to really be like, okay, I dug my heels in, but I get what you're doing, and it really is quite lovely. But it's almost that, and I think Impressionism has got to be the most generally popular style of art. I mean, wouldn't you say? I can't think of anything that's more popular all around than Impressionism. Certainly, the most famous and beloved artists are the Impressionist artists. Um, but I think there is something about it that is so personal, right? It's magic. Number one, the way that it's executed is magic and harder in fiber. So congratulations to everybody that's been doing these Impressionist pieces, because to me they are the hardest type of raw cooking to do. But there is something that is so sweet and um, um, help me think of the right word. The idea of looking at a view with colors that are from someone's own imagination, right, and preference, right. Each Impressionist artist handling color and having very distinct and different color palettes, their work, their design, their spin on their subject being presented from their unique point of view, right? that's something that most people want a piece of. You see that and you want some of it. You want to see things through other people's eyes, right? That's why we like art. That's why we listen to music. That's why we go to plays. You want to see things from other people's eyes and you want to be in that point of view for a while. It makes life interesting, makes life beautiful, shows you extra things that you might have missed yourself, right? You get to look at them through someone else's eyes. It really is, it's a great opportunity. And as I say, all of the work that we looked at today was from a workshop the Strawberry Guild had with Janet Connor. Um, and if you're interested in Impressionism, right, and you like any of the compositions that we saw today that were not original compositions, you should write to Janet Connor, Conner, because she's got a beautiful website as well, and she's got a lot of patterns, including the ones we just saw, that are like head on Impressionist patterns. I have some too, but since we're talking about Janet Connor today, I want to do a huge hat tip to Janet because she is a great friend and she's just such an important person in rug hooking. All of the rugs we saw today, I think, were exceptionally pretty. I think we'll continue this on Wednesday. That will be my last day for a little while. That is actually on the calendar. And I think after that, we can go to, we'll go back to Priscilla Bazell. Remember the Bazell borders? We'll go back to that a little bit later, and I'll figure out all the timing for that. But on Wednesday, let's meet back here at noon Eastern Standard Time, and we'll look more at the rug show. It's not all Impressionism. We're about to move to a lot of different styles, a lot of primitive stuff, lots of everything, a big mixed bag of everything. In the meantime, if you need me, I am at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. If you're sending in orders, I'm going to have all of my orders up to date and out before I leave as it stands. If you put in an order that's huge today, it might get to you in 2.5 weeks after I get back from vacation. I'm going to get as much done as I can to clear my schedule leading up to vacation. I do appreciate the orders while I'm on vacation, right? Because the money isn't just showering down on me like a Grimm's fairy tale, right? Um, so feel free to make orders, but just be patient and realize, it says it on the website, but realize that I will be on vacation. And while I will still be present and available for emails, working on our Halloween book together and wrapping up Magpie and proofing that, I will be physically in a different place in my studio. So orders might take a little bit longer during this time. This is the longest break I take of the year. Thank you so much for your support, Patreon members. I hope you got the message I sent yesterday with more Halloween patterns. And I will see all of you soon. I will be in touch with my buddies on Cape Cod there. Flat X composition. Oh, the diagonal bushes. Kirsten, you're right. I didn't think of that. That was an X, wasn't it? Oh, that's fantastic. That's really smart. Good job. You are all so smart. I will see you Wednesday. In the meantime, ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com.